Welcome to the Car Guys and welcome to a car that I've never driven before, the Porsche 968 Club Sport.
We're going to take this beast out and work out whether or not this is Porsche's best track weapon.
Welcome to the Porsche 968 Club Sport. This car is in Grand Prix white, it's got red decals, it's got red wheels, it's got 237 brake horsepower through the rear wheels. Car friend Tom has very kindly delivered this 968 to us from Ashgood Specialist Cars. As you recall, we've been there a couple of times and they have an enormous array of Porsches for sale. Now, the first thing to bear in mind with 968s is that when they are cold, they give you a completely different impression of the car than when they're warmed up. The gearbox feels horrible and imprecise and notchy and long throwy. The steering is incredibly cumbersome. The engine feels lumpy. I did utter those immortal words, I don't know what the fuss is all about. However, give it some time, let everything warm up, and suddenly it becomes slicker, it starts to flow, the changes become far smoother. Steering, to be honest, never does get any better. It is quite heavy, but that's what you get with a front-engined car. That's why the 911 steering is so wonderful, because the engine's at the back, so the steering only has to worry about turning the car. Whereas, of course, in a front-engine car like this, you've got the whole weight of that engine pushing down on the steering and the suspension on the front. Right from the get-go, you can sense that weight distribution. You can sense that this is a very well-balanced car. It's very chuckable. You do not have any real fear of throwing it into a corner, turning in keenly, and not being able to control it on the other side. What is quite surprising, though, given that this is the Club Sport, is that the suspension and the damping is surprisingly compliant. It's coping perfectly well with all of these bumps and ruts and potholes. It was absolutely fine on the motorway with all those ridges and rough surfaces. It's very, very comfortable because you got this leggy sixth gear, which is almost like an overdrive. It means that actually long distance progress in this track special car is surprisingly comfortable. Today is about finding out why the 968 Club Sport is such a special car, because everyone says it is. It's a perfect track day car, and that's why values of 968s remain very high. They didn't make a huge number of them, particularly in the UK, where we're driving today, and a lot of them are favoured by track day enthusiasts, mainly for the perfect 50-50 weight distribution and handling and balance. Today I'm not taking it on a track, unfortunately, but I am taking it to meet up with Jason and for us to enjoy this car on some scintillating, twisty B roads. The downside is the heavens have opened. It's probably the worst day you could possibly imagine to drive a car like this. I would describe conditions today as monsoon, but who cares? Let's get on with it. So Jason, here we are at our natural hunting ground at the Half Moon at Curdford. We've brought the 968. It's a filthy, disgusting, wet day, but what do you think about this car?
I'm glad we're talking about the car because, frankly, this is one of the worst days on the planet. What I like about this car is I have a friend called Mr. Mark Gritz. Hello, Mark, if you're watching. He bought a brand new yellow Club Sport. I was super jealous. That thing was amazing. Yellow wheels, yellow body, the whole thing. It was just absolutely perfect. So I've been dying to drive one of these for ages. Today's the day, probably not, that we're going to get to find the limit of its handling.
I think we're going to find the limit of its handling at 10 miles an hour, frankly. So this car was introduced in 1992 and it only ran until 1995. So a very brief time on this earth.
Still managed to make 12,500 of them though.
Of which there's not many club sports in the UK, possibly less than 200. The 968 was designed to replace the 944, and that's because 944 sales, although initially pretty good, dropped off a cliff massively in the late 80s, mainly because of a recession, but also because it looked a bit old. It didn't look as cool and sexy as the new models that were coming from Porsche, and they came up with this, which is, I think, a really attractive shape.
So let's have a look at the styling. Styling is quite important because these are the same people that have styled this car were already on the project to do the 993 styling, which is why we've got the rounder headlights and we've got these wing shape.
This is a 3-litre inline 4-cylinder, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a big engine.
But crucially, it only delivers 237 brake horsepower.
Which is fairly wimpy, really, isn't it?
And it weighs like 1,320 kilograms, so
yeah, it's not
the quickest.
It's not ripe for the tunage.
And for those of you like us who had no idea how to open the boot of a 968, the catch is located behind the passenger seat on a UK car, all the way back here on top of the rear wheel arch. You see that there? There it is. Pull that, up it goes. Behold the boot.
It's not the easiest car in the world to get into.
I'll quit moaning, you old bastard. Straight away, there you go. You can see the Essex in him. No messing.
Yeah, it's there's not a great deal of oomph there, is there?
I like the way you in no way get used to the car before going flat out around some slippery bends.
You told me this car was very forgiving.
So 6.5 seconds 0 to 60 and top speed of 157 miles an hour. Do you know what peak torque is?
20.
Yeah, it's not a lot. I'll give you that. It's not a lot.
Go on then.
It's 225 foot-pounds.
Oh. The steering's quite nice. There's quite a lot of feel to it. You're right, the rack is quite heavy though.
Yeah.
So turning it is quite a trial, but actually when you're on a straight ahead and you're just letting it dance around, it's actually very nice.
Yeah, rack and pinion steering, but of course it's got the engine on top of it.
Yes, of course. But it has good feel and good grip.
You see what I mean about it being sort of quite beefy to match the car? Everything's quite heavy and beefy.
I like that about it. That's the thing that I miss in modern cars. The fact that you have to drive it, that you have to put a little bit of. I mean, obviously, no good for sitting on the M25 when it's nose to tail for 3 hours and your leg falling off.
To me, this is like the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson of cars.
Oh.
You know, it's got quite a lot of character, but it's just properly beefy and hard.
Manly, isn't it?
1,320 kilogram weight, so it's something like 50 kilograms lighter than the standard 968. You know, they stripped out obviously a lot of motors, sound deadening, air conditioning, you know, quite a few bits out of it to get the weight down. But it's not really any faster 0 to 60 or top speed than the standard car.
I bet the handling's improved though, because of taking that extra weight out and putting that, whatever that massive piece of metal is behind us, across where the rear seat should be.
So I think you need to pop up the pop-up headlights.
Oh yeah, how do we do that?
Just here, obviously makes no sense where they are. It's this little turny knob down there.
Well, that's a massive. Oh, look at those!
Look at that.
Oh, that's amazing. So these must be the same headlights that they had in the 928.
Yep, exactly.
Brilliant.
So we've got a sunroof on this.
Interesting sunroof.
Yeah, not quite sure why it would have that. Also, we've got the world's most horrible aftermarket Kenwood stereo.
That is awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a throwback to my youth. That is. That's properly horrible.
But 6-speed manual gearbox.
6-speed manual.
Engine in the front, gearbox in the back, 50-50 weight distribution.
Perfectamondo.
Exactly. There's a lot of space for luggage.
Yeah.
But it's under a big piece of glass, so if you put anything valuable in there, people are just going to be able to see it, smash it and nick it. You can stuff things underneath in here, in these bucket area bits there, so that's a little bit safer. Cabin is very, very simple, classic German. It sort of, to me, just looks like a gas mask.
These little door pockets are more kind of an excuse for a door pocket. You wouldn't get anything in it.
You could maybe get a phone or a pack of playing cards.
Windy windows.
I know, this is where it starts to get old school and amazing, because we've got wind up manual windows. All you kids out there, this is what we used to have to do to open windows. And you used to press a button, you used to have to wind
Manually.
them. Very, very simple,
Nice.
hardly any buttons. You got the classic Porsche switchgear here. Only the essentials really in the Club Sport. That's the whole thing. They stripped out so much. The dials are tiny, look at this.
Yeah, they're small, aren't they? Really
So
small.
you still got 5 gauges like you do in a 911, but they're little tiny versions.
Tiny ones.
Look how big the vents are.
Yeah, why are the vents that big?
I think ventilation is an issue in this car because there's so much glass. It probably can get very hot in here.
Have we got air conditioning?
I think air conditioning was one of the things deleted off of the Club Sport.
I feel like a bit like Lilliput in here. I feel like a giant. All the controls are small, the steering wheel's small, everything's kind of tiny and little. It's almost like I'm a grown-up sitting in a child's car.
Oh, bloody hell, that's a pothole, wasn't it?
Big hole in the whole thing. Oh, power!
Not much power.
Limited power.
What I find with it though is, so these roads are the worst conditions ever for driving.
Yeah.
Leaves, wet, and yet we can push on quite hard without any real fear of losing it.
Grip levels are good.
Yeah, very good. The grip
It's
on
not
the front.
overpowered, is it?
No, it's not overpowered, but it's just even if you go into corners pretty hard, it just sorts it out. Pedals are perfectly positioned for a bit of heel and toe action,
Right.
which is lovely, and it's what you want with this car really. It needs that to give you sort of nice smooth gear changes, not like that.
Not like that.
And obviously it's naturally aspirated, so you get instant response from the old engine, which is also pretty nice.
Not very noisy though, is it?
No, I mean that's not, I wouldn't say that's a very pleasurable noise. Right, should we do some beanage?
Oh, beanage.
Here we go.
Okay, all right.
Ready?
Yeah.
Come on, old girl. Come on. So you see, it's okay.
Along a standard British B road, of which this is one,
Yes.
it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, but it is not an overtaking weapon,
No.
and it definitely makes more sense on a track where you're not really chasing lap times. You're more looking to have a good time, to
Yeah,
really,
enjoy yourself.
smooth progress. Your average hot hatch is just going to blow this into the weeds.
Oh yeah, Fiesta ST, you wouldn't see where it had gone.
Let's go for an overtake, shall we? There we go. It's sufficient, but it's not going to set your hair on fire. Not so much a turning circle, more a sort of triangle. Still going.
Oh.
Lovely. So I don't think there's a limited slip differential.
No.
I don't think so.
What gave you that idea? No, I don't think it's equipped with one of those.
But I think what it is equipped with is poise and grip and balance, and I have to say it's not a scary car at all.
But is it a good car?
I think it is. I think you just got to be careful, because it's like when it's cold it feels like one of the worst cars ever made, so you've got to put some heat into it to get it going. I think it's a great car. I don't think it's one that scintillates me and makes me desperately want one, because on a track I think I'd want more power these days.
Yeah, I think you're right. Unless you were at Cadwell or somewhere like that, this would probably be quite fun.
So that button there
Cigarette lighter.
is the cigarette lighter, which you do not see in cars. When was the last time you had a pop-out cigarette lighter that you saw?
Oh, never.
Funny thing about this one, you push it in, and
Well, that's push it in.
I would not advise it.
Oh, really?
I would not advise it, because 2 minutes later, whilst red hot, it will ping into your lap.
Amazing.
I did it earlier, right up, because essentially this little sort of Molotov cocktail flew down onto these little fabric seats and then bounced into the footwell. So just to show you how suicidal the cigarette lighter is on a 968, observe the finger. Don't think of this as a cigarette lighter, think of it more as pulling the pin on a grenade. We've had our fun in the 968 Club Sport, now it's a time of reflection.
Oh, that's very profound. I've wanted so much to love this car and for it to be a proper hardcore track weapon, and it just isn't.
I think it's good. I do like it, but
Yeah.
but I now no longer want one.
No, it's not special enough for me to pay that kind of money that they want for them because of their rarity value, obviously.
We have to bear in mind, I suppose, we've not been on the track with it, but you can get a sense enough on the sweeping roads that we've taken this car on to know how it feels, how it handles. You know, it's a great car. It's an iconic shape.
Yes.
I do love it. It would look great in the garage, but I'm not sure I would take it out that often.
No, I think if you were presenting, if you had a bowl of keys and you walk out to the garage, you go, I want to go for a quick blast, you wouldn't be taking this.
But what about if you specifically wanted a track day car? I think, again, I'd rather have, an Aerial Atom, or I'd rather have...
Radical.
Or a GT3.
Or a Caterham.
E30 M3, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
I think now, having driven it, it's not for me.
No, agreed.
I'm not getting a fizzing in my winky, which is, of course, the gold standard.
So if you have one of these cars and you absolutely love it, try and prove us wrong. Leave us comments. Tell us the things that you love about it, having driven it on the track.
Thanks for watching this episode on the Porsche 968 Club Sport.
We hope you enjoyed it. We hope that people that own them aren't going to give us too many bad reviews. But don't forget to leave comments. Please subscribe. Ding that notification bell for when we have another episode uploaded.
Don't forget to check out our website, www.TheCarGuys.TV.
And we'll see you on the next one.